David and I did this last year, and we had an awesome time. I got to do this last week with Wardy. We had a great time as well. Because for me, yes, these were my two roughest rivals and who I fought the hardest. And when I woke up in the morning, it's who I thought about. When I went to sleep at night, I was wondering what the hell they were doing and how much faster they were than me, and really motivated me. But our careers worked together. But Wardy was an Orange County guy, I was a San Diego guy, and David was back east. And I said this last week with Jeff, and I said it last year with David, is I idolize these guys, all right? This guy was a kid on a Bull Taco that I didn't even know made a mini bike. I think it was like a 400 or something. Or was it a 125 or a 250 Bull Taco?
A 100, then a 125, 175.
So I have this phenom from back east called the Little Professor doing a perfect cross-up better than his dad. And then I have this guy over here doing wheelies on any Sunday. And it was just in every magazine of mini-cycle action. And so when I watched them, I felt the same way as when I watched On Any Sunday for the first time. I want to be them. I want to be that guy. And I mean, thank God that I got to race with them. And we're here today as friends. We were unbelievable rivals, and I think I raced the cleanest with these guys. I've been known to hit a guy or two. But I think, truth be told, you know, Dave and I went through a really hard patch, but we had a lot of respect for each other. We did have contact, we did race hard against each other, but we didn't try to kill each other like some of the other riders did. So I want to kind of keep I'm going to be the pivot man in this conversation here, but I'm going to throw it first to Wardy. When you were a kid, I mean, you were so much in the spotlight. Who did you look up to? And obviously you knew about David because he was in the big magazines, not many cycle action.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I started racing Saddleback Park in probably like the late 60s, 67, 68, when there was really no mini bikes at that time. I mean, there was a Mini Trail 50, you had like Powell mini bikes, Taco mini bikes. There was really not even a track at Saddleback to race on. My dad and Ron Hendrickson, who eventually started NMA, put trash cans in the parking lot with chalk, and we used to race around trash cans. And then Saddleback built a kind of a TT type track in the back where the mini bikes could race. So I started racing there, and of course my dad did all my bikes, and at that time I think I was running maybe a Hidaka 100, the Bonanza motor, and then an SL70, and then, well, first it was a Mini Trail 50. So then I started racing, but then, you know, the Europeans would come over for like the Trans Am at Saddleback, and you'd see Joel Robert and Roger. And then really where I started following it was when Marty Smith came into the picture, and he was kind of like my first hero of, we were talking about it, I had Bel-Ray patch, Electro patch. I don't even think we ran Bel-Ray on our bikes, I just wanted the patch because it was harder for it. I had an Electro helmet, Bates lab, everything. So he was like my first hero, and the motocross was just taking off in America with the American riders, and that's kind of like where Ricky's I want to be like that guy. He was the guy that I wanted to be like.
Well, now when you did the XR ads for Honda, I mean, does anybody remember the posters of him going around the corner, tucking the front wheel with the foot out? I mean, I do. I could spot that thing a mile. Did you get to meet Marty and work with him? Because that was right after, is that when he came into the scene?
Yeah, I was the first kid to run an XR70, you know, to test the XR75. And they came out to Saddleback, big giant semi, and you know, they opened up the back door, and the only thing in the semi was like one XR75 sitting there. That was it. And so they brought it out, and I started racing it, and I was a factory Honda rider at the time. And when I met Marty, I didn't meet Marty doing all that. I met him at like a GP at Carlsbad. I mean, I was a little bit older than, I was probably 14, maybe 13. I've been on Honda for a year or so, and I just remember my dad dragging me, you know, through the pits to go meet him. And of course I didn't want to go meet him, you know, so I was nervous, but then it was just kind of like, you see your hero, and he was just bigger than life at that time, you know, and so he was the one that was my biggest inspiration to get racing. And, you know, I mean, I was on Honda, and we got other stories to tell how I ended up at Kawasaki, but I was kind of the factory. I don't know if I was basically was kind of one of the first mini bike guys to go to the next level, because Marty and them were already old. I mean, they were already 16, 18 or whatever they were, and they started racing pro where there was nobody coming from behind, like a mini bike guy that was going to be the next kid. I was one of them. Brian Myers-Koff was another. Mike Brown, AJ White. It was like this era had about 5 or 6 kids that were going to, Scott Burnsworth. I raced with Scott in the Race of Champions where they had 10 identical YZ Yamaha stock with numbers 1 through 12 on them, and you just drew a number out of the hat. And whatever your number was, you went to that bike, and in the second moto, you moved 3 bikes over, and then the next moto, you moved 3 bikes over, and you just hope you didn't get a guy's bike that cartwheels. It wasn't all bad. So I won that a few times. I raced with Scotty on that. So I rode for Honda at the time, so I had Honda leathers on with a Yamaha jersey race. That wouldn't happen today.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty unique kind of little thing to see who was the best on stock equipment. It was a pretty cool time.
So David, when you were growing up, obviously, you were in Virginia. I mean, where were you in Virginia?
In a motorhome.
In a motorhome traveling. But the point is, where did you started racing at a young age, where did you find people to race with?
Well, my parents were separated, so my mom remarried to Gary Bailey, so I took that name eventually. And he was in New Orleans. So my dad hugged me goodbye, and I remember that, feeling like, this is different. Something's changing here. So I drove with Gary's parents from Torrance, California to New Orleans with his parents and sister, got there and rode his Yamaha Mini Enduro 60 in the school that he was teaching, and then he would do a school, then race. And so at the end of the school, I wanted to race, and he's like, I don't think you're really ready for that. And I'm like, no, but I want it. And my mom said it. So they put a paper plate over the headlight with a number, and I raced my first race right off the bat. Got last, but I didn't care how I was doing. I just wanted to be racing and riding. And so I started like that. I was slow, and Gary's like, it's one of my students, and he's traveling with us, and he's not very good. He doesn't look good. But I just kept getting involved in the schools. So I'd flag and ride, and little by little, I just got a little bit faster and moved up to bigger bikes. But it started on a Yamaha Mini Enduro, and then I went to Tacos. That me? Yeah, then got on Taco because that's where he was. So whatever he was doing, I was doing. And we just had a Winnebago. My mom would book wherever we're going to go, whichever tracks. And it was mostly Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, Georgia. And there was always somebody different to ride, a different track, and people that were going to kick my ass I'd never heard of before. I'm like, I'm not that fast. But people thought because I was with Gary that I was good. And it took a while for me to get used to that kind of pressure and racing against other people all the time at a new track, and they're already kind of dialed in with it. But it helped me in my growth of being versatile and being able to adapt.
So now do you remember the first time besides the On Any Sunday, seeing Jeff Ward and what your thoughts were?
I saw him there, and then the first time that he really got my attention, besides I didn't know that about the bikes. That's interesting. He had to switch and just pick a number. That's wild. I remember seeing that in Cycle News, so I watched you in Cycle News pretty much, which, that came on Thursdays, so the event happens, you don't know what's going on until UPS comes and brings Cycle News to check it out. Then you really caught my eye, you were leading the LA Coliseum. I think I remember 26 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy is like already beating everybody, and you were leading it for a really long time, and I just thought, man, he can do it. Maybe I can. I'm not that good, but I'd like to be. So like you, I wanted to be like him. Same thing. I had that 3X poster on the 6 or whatever. What size was it?
It came in Cycle News.
70 or something like that?
It was the XR75.
And you're laid over with the trick Honda jersey and those blue leathers and all that 3X. I'm like, man, I want to be like that guy. And so you motivated both of us, just so you know.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, a lot more than you probably wanted to at some point in our career.
It would have been better off if they didn't show up. Yeah, there would have
So,
been a lot more championships.
it's a little story about, in the early 80s. At the end of my Yamaha career, actually, let's back up. Let's go to 1984, where we got to be on the Motocross and Trophy Nations team together. So it was really cool. I won the 125. You won 125. I won 250, right?
Yeah, in
And
84,
then
yeah.
you were 500, and Johnny got second in the 125.
Correct.
So we had this massive team, okay? There was Bailey and O'Mara that played Yahtzee with Gina and Johnny's ex-girlfriend, like all the time. Like, I don't know how you guys played Yahtzee so much, but they played Yahtzee all the time. And then Wardy and I teamed up together because I was the Yamaha guy, he was Kawasaki. So we'll talk about the tennis game. So we were out there playing, we're warming up, we're in Finland, we're having a good time. And so David and Johnny are on one side and Wardy and I are on the other side. And we start rallying back and forth, and I don't play very well in that. So all of a sudden, Wardy and O'Mara get into, I'm going to settle this 125 championship for all. And they did a rally back and forth, probably 20 shots. I mean, it was back and forth and back and forth. And David and I just stood there like, well, we're not in the game now, so we're just going to watch. And then Wardy won the point because Johnny lost his mind. I mean, he was going to break the racket. He was just completely lost his mind. And so it was that. And then, all right, I see some people with phones, so don't post this online. But Johnny would do some kind of weird shit. Like he would pull his junk out in places, and he would just do some things like you're like, what the fuck are you thinking about? You know, it just like he would just shock you. Or like he'd piss in the hallway of a hotel. You know, he'd pull down his pants and fart on people. And just like he did all kinds of weird stuff like that. And so
True.
it's true. I mean, they know I'm not lying. They know I'm not lying. So Johnny's, you know, that's when we all had dolphin shorts and high and tight and stuff like that. So Johnny goes over to them, pulls his junk and throws it over the top of the tennis net. And Bailey's down at the other end and goes, wow, and pulls it up really hard. And so the Bob ripped his dick off when he did it. And so Johnny's screaming, Bailey's laughing, Wardy's laughing, I'm laughing, we're dying, we're having fun. We're just doing all this crazy shit. I think one of us peed in the corner, whatever the case may be. But what we didn't realize, what looked like this glass wall, was the restaurant to the hotel. No shit. Remember that?
Then when we walked in, we didn't realize, because they were at an angle, like a steep angles. So when we walked in the doors, we walked in first and looked to the left. We could see the tennis court where all the people were sitting at the tables. So they got to watch Johnny display shit. I don't think we got any.
First, he had it on his tennis racket, going like that, and made it to the net. Yeah, I would go on a run with Johnny. He got me into running, and we're going up a hill, and you know, you're suffering. And he's faster than me, so I'm trying to keep up. And I'd run super fast on the downhills so that he wouldn't pull away on the uphill, so we could stay about even. And we're going up this really long hill we called Suicide, and I'm keeping up with him. I'm pretty stoked. And then out of the corner of my eye, I glance over, and his junk is just out. Just you can't run and laugh. So we, you know, it was. I mean, the three of us. We rode, we trained, we rode, we trained. We worked on our bikes, traveled, raced, rode, and trained. And you had to do something, I think, along the way to just keep it interesting. And Johnny was probably the most interesting that way. Yeah, he was a fun teammate from that aspect, and motivated me to train. And that was pretty funny with the tennis. You get in your own world and forget all about what's going on, and we had a lot of spectators.
So we go there, and it's in Finland, and this track has been there forever, and it's great. It's so smooth, but it's like Southwick. You know, I'm thinking, this is sand track. They're saying it's rough. This thing looks like Indian Dunes, like the international track. We don't realize that the sand's this deep, and it gets rough, really, 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 really rough at the end of the day. But back up, we're walking the track, and I see this, like, it's a hard right turn, goes up, 45 left, and then 45 left again. And I look at it, I'm like, we can seat hop this and turn, do a little cross up and go down. Roger's like, there's no way, it's impossible. No one's ever jumped this. This track has been here for, 50 years.
Very technical.
Very technical. That's not gonna happen. And so I did it first lap, David did it first lap, Johnny did it first lap, Wardy did it first lap, all of us, and we're like doing one-leggers and all kinds of shit. And we're having a blast. But all the Europeans, all of them, Håkan Karlqvist, Andre Malherbe, all these guys are stopped there going, what the fuck are they doing? Like, this is not doable. They can't do this because it's like turn, jump turn, and then flip it, and then land on a turn as well. So there's a lot going on, but when you race Supercross every weekend, we were just having fun.
Yeah, we had an edge. You had the style, then Johnny had the style, then Jeff came along with more style, and I was actually stressed about it. I might have made it look easy, but I was stressed out. And then I saw
It was a good distance, and the angle had to
Yeah.
be right. As far as you were either in the fence on the left or off the track to the right.
Yeah.
And then, so that led into like a left, right, off another jump, and it started getting rough and sandy and hard-packed mixture. And that's where, didn't you fall?
Yeah, I went down pretty hard in
Yeah.
practice
Yeah.
and
And what
got
happened?
knocked out for like about 5 minutes.
So
I think it
Stan, we were
was.
talking about getting knocked out. He was snoring. All right, so
For like
he
5
was out.
minutes, and then I came to, and then I don't remember much of the whole day. You know, I just had to stay in Ricky's room.
Right, so he's in my room, and so I'm like,
DeCosta wanted me to make sure I woke up every
Wardy,
20
don't
minutes.
fall asleep. This is the medical attention that we got back in the 80s. Wardy, don't fall asleep. And then I'm over there. And he's like, Rick, quit snoring. I'm awake, I'm not sleeping. So the next day, we all line up. And so this is a time when you had 4 riders on a 500 from each country. So we had to race 500s one weekend and then 250 the next weekend. And so, excuse me, I stopped Vinny, you see my Instagram post, you know that I'm capable of that. So Wardy's got the shit knocked out of him, and then we start the first moto, we're doing great, and my bike seizes the first lap. So,
Right in front of me.
yeah, right in front of him. So David almost lands on me, and then you take it from there. Because I was just on the sidelines after that.
Well, I started in the second row because I'm the 500 champion guy, I think, that year, 84. So it's like, okay, well, you guys are riding 125, Johnny and Jeff 125s, you're 250, and you're riding whatever it was.
Yeah,
right?
490 air
Not
cooled.
great.
Yeah.
So I'm behind you going, well, I don't need to like make a big deal and pass you because like Jeff's gone and Johnny's up there, so we're in good shape. And then your bike seized, Jeff gets sick from having a whatever
Well,
you had.
I led until maybe
Yeah,
5
you were
laps
gone.
to go, and then Mallard got by me. I think I got
So I
second,
could
but I was
see-
throwing up while I was riding
Yeah.
all night long. I shouldn't have been riding.
So we're
This is
looking.
the first moto.
This is the
Hold
first
on.
moto.
This is the first moto. We have another one when it rains. but go
Yeah,
ahead.
so we're looking good. And so I'm not in a hurry, but when your bike sees, I'm like, okay, now there goes our throwaway. So I gotta get up there. So I catch up to 5th, Johnny's in 4th. Jeff drops back and he's sick, and then Malherb and Joe Bay get 1st and 2nd, I think, and so now.
First moto?
I think so.
I got second in first moto.
Okay, but they're like, we're like tied on points going into the
Yeah.
second moto. And for whatever reason, we're in Finland and it's up there, up high, so it's dark. And it took a long time to get the second moto going, and then the gate malfunctioned. And when the start finally went,
I started second. I started second row because I had
We all
tons of
crashed in the
energy.
first turn, though.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
said I'll start in the back because I can charge. I got a lot of energy because I sat on my ass the whole first moto. But now take away what happened in the first turn.
Well, I told him I was done. Between motos, I said, I'm done.
I forgot.
And
about
Caffeine
that.
pills.
Yeah, I forgot.
I got some
Hold on.
caffeine pills. That these doctors said we're going to help out.
So Roger
They
brings.
can help out.
There's a true story. Roger comes over. I don't care what Roger said. I would do it. And smash your face on the ground, you'll go faster. I would smash my face on the ground. So he comes up with this cycling guy. Says, "Oh, I can't do a good Belgian accent, but oh, Rick, you got it. This guy. He's got this caffeine that'll help you out." And so he brings a pill that's like this big. So I look at Ward and I'm like, "What do you think?" You know, we're like two new guys at a rave. I'm like, "You want to try it? I'll try it." Boom. So we knock him down. Now. It's before the race and we look like two cokeheads. I'm like, Wardy, I feel good. How do you feel? And Ward's like, I feel really good, Rick. I'm like, man, these caffeine pills, wow. I got a lot of energy. I'm ready to go.
and it starts raining.
Yeah.
And I broke my wrist in the first moto, but didn't know it until between motos, so I couldn't even button my pants. I couldn't do my helmet. So I'm like, you start in the front row. And the gate didn't go down, boom, over the... So we're all in the first turn on the ground, and it's like, okay, we lost. But Johnny Holshot, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just got up and got going, and somehow...
Wait, so did you understand? There was a pileup in the first turn. It was 3 of us and 4 other guys. And like, he looked at me, I'm like, oh shit, we gotta go.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause I wasn't supposed to even try. I was just going out to get a start. I went down and went, oh well.
Okay.
I
So
wasn't
I'm just
supposed
getting
to
up
be-
slow, and then I looked to my right and I see Ricky, and then I look over and I saw David, and I just went, oh shit. So then I just took off, and I can't remember where I ended.
I got 12th, and that like sealed it up.
No,
Right.
my 7th. I came back, I went through the crew. I didn't know what place I was in. You're passing guys, you're lapping guys. Because here's the thing, you got really fast Europeans in the sand, but then there's some really slow some bitches too that you're lapping like every other lap that don't stand up, or so you're like don't know where you're at. You're looking at chalkboards and that. So I was able to get a 7th place, which made me feel good because that was what, I mean, it was the worst finish that we had, but for the championship. Now Wardy and I, he's over there with his hand iced. Wardy and I are over there behind the car, and we just had tangerines. I'll never forget it. We're just eating tangerines, and so we start dry heaving and pitching out orange wedges. Like I'm like, wow, it looks exactly like it went down. Like that is so weird. So after the race, Wardy and I I'm coming down off a mega high, so I'm like in the dumpster. David's hurt, Gina's looking out for him, Johnny's just being Johnny with Sandra. And tell them about the Yahtzee and the English team with the fire hose.
Yeah, you're all messed up on time, and so you're up at weird hours, and we got Yahtzee, so we're playing in the hallway, and Kurt Nicole, or one of those guys, fire hose. Breaks the glass, gets the fire hose, and here comes water that's like knocking us down. Yahtzee's up against the end of the hall in the window. And it got blamed on us.
Yeah, we got in trouble.
I wasn't even doing anything. I just rolled it, So yeah, we had whatever we had to do to pass the time. But then we had a ferry to Sweden with a disco.
Yep.
And I'm in my room bummed out because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to race the next race, which is the Motocross Nations or whatever. It's 2 different, trophy and motocross. And I don't think I can ride. And so I'm bummed out in the room, but I'm here and you're tearing it up on the dance floor.
Well, you got to do it, man's got to. I was so high from the race before, I figured I'd take that energy out on the dance floor. So yeah, I was doing my thing.
This is who America's depending on.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us finished school either.
It's amazing. We got serious at the race time.
Exactly.
But when it came time to get the job done, we got the job done.
And we were fortunate because there was a Swedish Supercross in the middle of the week, and Brock was over there, and he raced that, and then David realized he couldn't ride, and so Brock was there, and he stepped in, and he had a phenomenal race. But Wardy's probably sick of me bragging about him so much, but we experienced, greatness. The difference between Jeff Ward and Jesus Christ. Well, Jesus Christ doesn't think he can ride a motorcycle, because what Jeff Ward did that day is still to me, like I've watched James Stewart, I've watched Jeremy McGrath, I've watched Stephen Everett. I know it's probably not comfortable to hear me say this, but he was so fucking good. And he hit everything right. And he did not just fast, impeccable style.
And I got to watch because I was on the sidelines, and Brock actually rode really well.
You rode really good.
And finished second both motos, but that was the best I've ever seen you ride, ever.
Yeah, I think it was from getting knocked out the week before. So
Forgot
it
who you
did
were?
something. I couldn't do it. I've always said if you could ride like that every week, I'd even never lost.
Yeah.
Everything just clicked. I had some other races that were, okay, but that one was, for some reason, was just, I couldn't do no wrong.
A really difficult track. It was like hard to even memorize. I tried to ride a few laps before I decided I can't, and Brock took over. I was almost glad because the track was so awkward and weird drop-offs that you just G out, and bumps that have been there since the beginning. And for some reason, everything you did worked.
Yeah.
I saw you come up into view before the finish, and there was like several lappers in your way, and you didn't let off the same speed and just went through them all, and one guy messed up, and you took over that line and squared that guy off and then jumped over that guy. Everything you did was so perfect, and I got to actually witness that. You saw something from the race. I saw it from the sidelines. I'm like, kind of glad I wasn't out there, because it was amazing to just be able to watch that.
Yeah, it was a good day. We dominated that pretty much that day for everybody.
Then the next year, Brock got hurt and asked me to fill in for him. So
Right.
that's what you do at the Nations. You want to represent your country. And the first time I went, before you guys went, and Jeff's actually done it the most. You see an American flag, and you're like, okay, you're proud of that and all, but you go to Europe, and it's different, especially Czechoslovakia in 1983. and you just step up. I don't want to let you guys down. You don't want to let me down. We don't want Johnny down, and you just try harder. And it's like, we don't get paid a cent. We're over there like taking risks, and we got to come back over and start Supercross. And you look at how it is now, and I'm not bagging on the guys now, it's all different. But we were risking everything for nothing except being American and being teammates. And I think each time I went and I got to be on the team with different guys every year, you learn a little bit during the week, and that's how they do that. And they get kind of humanized a little bit. He locks his keys in the room too, and you start to get used to being around each other, and you pick up practice habits, and now that's what he eats, and he's a fast runner. Like we took off on a run, and Johnny and Jeff gone, and you're like, I don't like running. I'm like, okay, I'll hang. I didn't want to go that fast either, so I'll just hang and run with
We were
Rick.
still competing.
So,
We have a
tennis,
major problem.
if it was tennis, Yahtzee, running, whatever, it was really cool. But for the races, sharing lines and learning from each other, I think when we came home from each of those nations trips, we were better.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, for me, I loved it because you're always hiding everything from your competitors. You don't want them to see a line. You're checking where they are. Are they waiting? Are they going to follow you? Are they going to come try to do stuff? But it was so great because, it was one thing when we were teammates in '86, with that. We didn't really share lines at the Nationals and Supercross and stuff like that, but we weren't enemies. Like there wasn't the tension that Wardy and I had. But when Wardy and I went to New York together in '87, it was like we parked next to each other, we hung out. Bob Hanna called us fags because we each other. I'm dead serious. That dumb fucking puke, I swear, he's an idiot. He's an asshole. But this is one true story. Wardy's truck.
I have a story about this too, and I wasn't even there.
Wardy's truck, my truck, and he wouldn't park next to us. He had to have his thing like down 4 vehicles because he did not want to hang out with us. He was just that weird. Wardy and I walked the track together. What about this? Try this. Cut that line. Accidentally kick that stick over halfway through the race and go over there and things like that. So it was really cool to know that you're the fastest guys in the world that you're racing against. You're sharing the lines and stuff like that. So to me, it was my favorite race. I love racing for my country, but I love racing with my competitors.
Yeah.
I had Hannah call me. And I'm like, I just got hurt. And I'm the team captain or whatever they made me for that. I still have the jacket. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't want to be there. I do, but I don't. And so Hannah called me and said, hey, can you tell him I'm not riding the 125? Like, have Jeff ride the 125, Rick I'll ride the 250, and Rick can ride the 500. Rick can ride anything. And so I think I might have pitched that to you guys or somebody, and I think you were like, F.
No, I said
Hey, never
bullshit
mind.
that he's nowhere in the same zip code as me on a 250, so I'm not giving up that 250.
Yeah. So I just stayed out of it, and then I watched it like you all did, saw it eventually, and wow, what a job. Rick, your job was, did what you always do, but for you had a crash in the first lap and no goggles.
Yeah.
The whole moto.
I went from
Still got
15th to almost the lead, and then I fell over. But I got hit with a rock in my left eye or whatever, so it closed. So I ran the whole, probably half the moto with one eye, and then it was so bad between motos, they almost weren't going to let me race the next moto. So then I had to go on the next. I made sure I kept the goggles on the second moto. But I didn't take the goggles off. I got roosted so hard in the first turn they fell down because I wore my open face. So it fell down. I couldn't get them back up. So I just had to take them down. So they just hung around the neck the whole moto. But it was
And that's how you
pretty
did it.
treacherous. Yeah, we weren't coming in for goggles. That's for sure. Wasted too much time doing that.
No, I can't think of anything. I wasn't there. I just had my Hannah story. I thought it was, I was like, okay, well, I got to ask, it's Bob, but I don't want to talk to you about it at all. But I'm like, I was in the middle, so I mentioned it, and you shut me down so fast. And I wasn't mad at it. I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, I got asked about the 125. I said no. But then I rode the 125 the next year in '88 in France. So because I missed out the year you guys kicked butt in Majora, because we didn't have a good 125 in production, and we didn't have I don't even know if we had a rider at that time.
Yeah.
So I was giving you 129. I'm like, no, I'll be a really weak link with. I didn't feel comfortable even wanting to do that, so that's what.
I never heard that till after, and neither did Johnny.
Yeah.
And I forget if I told him that or how it happened, but Johnny goes, well, I kind of rains on my parade.
You guys still had the good work spikes
the
in Europe,
alternate.
and you still had the works 125. We didn't even have that, so it was like a production. But then when I was asking 88, I didn't want to miss out not going to the donations. I ride 125, so I rode the 125, which was like what 4 years after I'd ever raced one. So
So if you said yes, that would have been 11 donations.
yeah, 10 or 11, something like that.
Never lost.
All winning.
Never lost.
All winning. Had good teammates. That's what it was.
Yeah, he wanted
It's
to
awesome.
race and the other guys filled in the back.
Yeah.
But,
We got lucky a few times. It's always a lot of luck involved. Some of the, even that race we talked about in Sweden, we were not in position to win that race, I don't think, to the last lap or so. That either somebody fell or something happened to a bike. So there was a lot of luck involved in some of the races, but it was a good time.